Hey, so I am here. I was a few moments late. I stopped to tell my husband I was getting ready to go online and not to talk to me for a few minutes while I'm doing this. But what can I say? He and I had a nice little conversation. Today is his 71st birthday, so it is what it is. I'm Suzanne Titcomar, if you don't know who I am. I used to write for Pathos, a column called No Longer Quivering, for almost 10 years. It involved fundamentalism and evangelical religions, Christianity. Please do the YouTube things, hit like, subscribe, click the bell notification. These are just my opinions. Please don't bully anybody I'm talking about here, and don't be rude to each other. That's all I ask. Thank you for watching. Okay, so in the last couple days, we've had something kind of a little bit unusual happen that I haven't seen in a while. It's the behavior of my cat that I've not seen in a while. And it speaks to what I want to talk about a little bit today. I have a cat named Stinky that we have had almost 5 years now. In October, it'll be 5 years. We got him during Hurricane Nate when it came rolling through Costa Rica. So Hurricane Nate, Costa Rica, and Stinky. He was a little kitten then. One of the things that I found just so incredibly interesting about Stinky is that he has that inner voice. Hey, Kara. He understands something that we leave fundamentalism not understanding. That your inner voice, your gut, whatever you want to call it, you're still awake. Oh my goodness. He understands that that voice is vitally important. Gavin DeBecker wrote a whole book about it called The Gift of Fear. And that's one of the books that when you leave Quiverful, I tell people to read. That's one of them, because you have to redevelop your entire sense of what's wrong and what's right and about other people. Stinky, right now, he's actually a lump in the bed right around there if I can push him, which is what the meme was about. There are certain people that when they show up, Stinky hides. Let's see if I can pull up the cover. He hides. Where are you, Stinky? I'm going to unmake the whole bed thing for you. Oh, no, you've really gone deep. He hides, okay? And here's what I know about him and his inner gut feeling about people. He is seldom wrong. He's usually quite right about who it is I need to be afraid of. We have a new pool guy out there right now, so he's hiding. Yesterday, he hid because we had a new guy who's been working on our place, and I'm not getting positive vibes. That was one of the things I struggled with the hardest in the old Quiverful church was ignoring my gut. And let me tell you something, ignoring your gut, your literal gut or your inner gut never works out well. Right now, I'm living on this crap because I apparently have been ignoring my gut for a long time now. And I'm pretty sure I have an ulcer. I had one years and years ago. This feels very similar. I'm not liking it. I noticed last night when I was on Steve's live chat talking about Mrs. Cartman Crane and Erica Genevieve and others that are involved in some kind of crazy drama. And they're making all kinds of allegations about restraining orders that cannot be proven, that my gut literally flared up last night while I was in there. So I'm kind of suffering this morning with that. But that is for me ignoring my gut. I should have gone and had this treated ages ago. I swear I will get it treated on Monday or Tuesday of this coming week. So Stinky has more sense than I do. And he's been times when he has reacted to people that I was kind of like, why are you reacting to that guy? And then later the guy ends up in jail and it's like, well, okay, now I see why he was reacting to that guy. Now in Evangelical town, they will have you ignore all of your gut instincts about anything and everything. And I just have to say, sometimes that goes in some really weird places. I think for me, the biggest case of me ignoring my gut to my own detriment there was when my friend Lana started doing a exorcism on a poor stoned kid, a kid that I could smell. He smelled like skunk weed. He wasn't demon addled. He was just stoned out of his gourd, like not able to walk stoned. And I'd had that experience in my old job that I took when we first moved to our Virginia town, our small town. I couldn't find a job in my field, so I took a job as one of the managers of the local movie theater because I had some experience as a projectionist. I'd done that before. So it was a natural fit. It was the only job I could find because people would say, "Oh, we're not going to hire you because you're military or come here. You're not going to stay." So one night at the movie theater, I had a kid that was working as usher. I'm going to call him Sean. Sean showed up so high on LSD that he couldn't hardly walk. And so I had Sean sitting in the corner behind the candy counter, slapped a bottle of water in his hand, said, "Sean, don't move." And Sean spent the entire night in the corner laughing, watching the popcorn machine going, "The colors, the colors." So when this kid, who I'm going to call Jose walked into the church, and he wasn't a regular. He was the friend of these triplets I knew there, these three guys that were triplets, and they brought him in to this youth conference. If Sticky saw lobster porn, he'd be licking his lips. He likes seafood. He might like that. So this kid was merely stoned. He was a kid who was not in the church, who was not part of our church group. He was just the friend that lived next door to the kids I called Huey, Dewey, and Louie because there were three boys that were twins. And he showed up at our youth lock-in high as a kite. So I did the same thing to him I did to Sean. Took that bottle of water, slapped it in his hand, said, "Sit in this corner here, and I'll come talk to you in a bit." The problem with the lock-in is it was one of those ones where we were doing art, okay? So I didn't see what happened to Jose because I was busy in a forest of easels and other things, watching kids paint and making sure no paint got on the carpet because our pastor's wife would have flipped out. So I didn't see what happened. The next thing I know, I'm looking over and Jose is on all fours like an animal. And my friend Lana is sitting on top of him going, "Shandai, blah, blah, blah," speaking in tongues. And Huey, Dewey, and Louie are circling and they're all praying and doing weird stuff. And I'm looking over there with a WTF look on my face because this was not exactly what I expected. And to my everlasting shame, I didn't stop them. I mean, I had managed to turn off my inner voice well enough to know, even though it was throwing a fit and telling me, "Go over there and rescue that kid." I was too afraid of what was going on and what would go on if I did that. I knew to do that would be to be thrown into the outer darkness because you don't go up against the pastor's frozen chosen. And it would have been me going up against one of my really good friends, Lana. "Hey, Star Lily." The Swiss scientists created LSD accidentally, ingested some of it, and had an interesting bike ride home. I could just imagine. It was kind of funny because with Sean, at the end of the night, I was just able to put him on my car. I drove him back to his apartment that he shared with three other college students. And just for being there, I can tell you, there's more bong worshiping than studying going on. And I was like, "Okay, Sean, here you are. You're home again. Your car is at the theater. Don't worry about it. We made sure it was locked up, blah, blah, blah." And I gave him to his roommates. Unfortunately, I couldn't do that with Jose. Jose, they were doing the whole number on him. And a lot of really bad things happened. He started throwing up. He started speaking in weird voices. But the more I look back at that, I think it's because he had a full-grown woman sitting on him, choking off his airways and things that did all of that. And to my everlasting shame, I did nothing. I didn't do anything. And looking back, I know I should have. that was one of the occasions, one of many occasions where I ignored my inner voice. I ignored my gut, and something really bad happened as a result. Now, I saw this kid years and years later and said, "Hey, what do you think was going on that night they had you held down and were doing all that?" Was he speaking in tongues? He wasn't speaking in tongues, but he was like roaring and yelling in the weirdest voice. And at the time, I thought, well, maybe it's demonic. Well, now I'm like, heck no, that's not demonic. That is him yelling and trying to yell and scream with somebody who's cutting off his airways. Cutting off his airways. I never considered about the cutting off of airways until I watched that horrendous video of George Floyd being choked to death. Hey, Autistic Chill. Hey, Grace Peters. So you could only stare for a few. Okay, you're taking a writing seminar. Awesome. Awesome, Star Lily. That's a good way to go. A lot of us are getting ready for NaNoWriMo. I haven't done NaNoWriMo in ages. I'm going to this year. I did it for like 12 or 14 years in a row, and it was something I used to do when I went to the Fundy Town Church. I think it was an escape for me. Now I have some serious business to transact. I need to finish up my book. I'm going to try to use this as a incentive to do so. So this tale is in the book along with other ones. But back to the cat hiding under the covers. That's how a lot of us are. We stick our heads in the sand. And then when I left my old church, one of the things that happened when I started redeveloping boundaries, it wasn't just boundaries I was redeveloping. Part of it was listening to that inner voice, to my gut feeling about different things and different people. And at first I went overboard. I'd say the first 8, 10, 9 years, I was over the top. And what do I mean by that? I mean, kind of like everything's a threat. Your body is in such high hyper mode that everything is a threat. Literally everything. When you leave and they put you through their paces and they say, "Oh, you're demonic, blah, blah, blah," then that's what happens, that everything is a demon. And for a long time, I was just like over the top all the time. Like, now I've kind of started to balance out to more of a middle ground, to know exactly when I need to be worried and when I don't. Are you threatening me? Are you threatening me? Cornelio. Yeah, I love that. I love that. I have always laughed at that. Don't tell anybody in my old church, but sometimes when one of my kids would watch that when they were in that age group, I would laugh and recognize that it was actually kind of funny in a weird sort of way. But I've had to really step back from all of that. And again, I'm going to recommend reading Gavin de Becker's The Gift of Fear. That talks all about your inner warning system, your inner guidance that will, if you ignore it, every time I ignored it, I ended up in a terrible, terrible place in my life. Did you see the one where he became the leader of a cult? Yes, I did. And I saw the new movie because I laughed so hard about the two of them going through crowds and skipping and sailing, coming through white privilege, white privilege. I loved that. It was hysterical. So many hysterical parts. Like when they were at NASA and they were doing that thing, they were doing the thing with the joystick because it represented sex for them. So there are a lot of times I ignored my inner voice, and a couple of times I damn near lost my life. One of the times when I did listen to my inner voice and do what I was supposed to. Oh, you do have that. That's an excellent, excellent, excellent book when you're leaving and you're trying to develop your boundaries again. What's up, party people? We're just talking about the BS that is shutting down your own gut feelings about everything when you're in these types of religions. one of the few times that I stood up to them all and went with my gut feeling is when I had my hysterectomy. If it's not a hell yeah, it's a no. Well, supposedly now, yeah. But back then it was like, the leader is good. The leader is great. No, 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 leader. Had to do that. And there were so many times when I kowtowed to the pastor when I should not have. One of which was the day that he called me up when I had something important to do. And I was going to make some money out of it. He said, no, you need to go clean my house right now. And so I started giving him some aggro about it because I certainly was not hearing from the Spirit of the Lord that that's what I was supposed to do. And then he said, my wife is in the house and she's crying. And I was like, Doe. I wanted to listen to my inner voice, but that was one of the times when I deliberately shut it down. And while that one did not impact me in a bad way, other than just moving what I was doing down the thing a little bit, there were a lot of other times where I did, where things happened. And instead of speaking up, I just started backing out of the room. Or I was told that my inner voice was wrong. I was told a lot of times that my emotions were a lie to me. I was told that you can't ever follow your emotions, that your emotions and your feelings are always a lie, that you have to look and see what lines up with the Word of God and only do that, which is some BS because your emotions do not lie to you. Your emotions are your emotions, whether they're correct or not. And sometimes you need to sit with your emotions and make sure that they are not just you reacting in the moment. Starla, you have a good day too. So, like I said last night, I was talking with Steve, trying to decode the whole Cartman Crane, Erica Genevieve thing, trying to bring him up to speed because he, like so many other in the community, doesn't always have the most well-developed sense of wrong and right and who a dangerous person is. I don't think that Erica is necessarily a dangerous person. I think she is somebody who is like Nat, just creating drama to create drama. And I wanted to say this about Nat too. Those of us that filed against Nat have received an email from the detective in the UK. Apparently, the judge has ruled that no bond needs to be held in the Natalie thing, and that apparently the judge is disinclined to prosecute. Here you have somebody that has sown enormous amounts of discord in the community. She fooled me. My inner voice failed me when it came to Nat. Absolutely failed me because I thought she was probably a victim, like she was claiming. But no, she was a victimizer. She was not a victim. Your emotions are what save you. I think they're a part of your feelings and warning gauge. They absolutely are. But the thing is, when you're in these groups, they tell you that you must deny your emotions and stop listening to them all, that you must ignore them. You must give the other person the benefit of the doubt. You got to do this, you got to do that. You have to stop and tell your emotions their lives in the pit of hell. Satan has sent them to you to tempt you. Just some over the top, ridiculous things. So much of what is taught and preached in some of these groups are up is down and down is up. I mean, in other news, Trump has threatened to move his business to Hungary. I wonder if we should tell him the U.S. signed an extradition treaty with Hungary in 1994. Java man. Okay. I did not know that. I haven't been keeping up with Trump world. I am reading a very interesting book right now written by Oh, a writer for the New York Times about Trump World and about some of the behind the scenes shenanigans and rumors. And it's pretty interesting. So I can see that happening. He needs to move it to a country that does not have an extradition treaty. And he's going to be very, very, very surprised to see. Yeah, to see where that is. Let's look real quick and see where there's no extradition treaty. No extradition. First of all, he would never be able to live in one of these other countries. Let me tell you why. Because he would never be able to survive with junk food, without. He would never be able to survive without some of the things. Russia, Somalia, that's about it. Korea, Korea. Most of Africa, no extradition. And Russia, China, North Korea, and a couple other places. So for him to think that he's not going to be extradited, it's going to be very difficult for him to get away with that. I had to learn to read the vibe in a room before I said anything. It's not a safe place growing up. Yeah, if you have to learn to read the vibe, it's not a safe space. Israel won't extradite if someone is Jewish. But is Trump Jewish? I know he's German. Of course, ask Osama bin Laden what happened when we handle countries without extradition treaties. Yep, but here's the thing. If somebody is big and bad enough, they'll send in Navy SEALs and do away with them. And as much as I'm not a fan of our former president, I do not want to see him executed. I want to see him stand trial for some of the crap he's done. Sorry. I do. I'm not a fan of his. He's absolutely not Jewish. Yes, absolutely he's not. He's absolutely not Jewish. And I'm not wild about Biden either, but Kushner and Ivanka are Jewish. I know. And I think it's very interesting. Before like 2018, Jared had been registered Democrat until he finally registered to be a Republican voter. And he'd always given a ton of money to Democratic causes, including maybe they're saying as much as $100K to Hillary Clinton. I'm sure he would be willing to convert if necessary. Well, there's that. I don't know how that works. I know it's very difficult to convert to Judaism unless you're like Ivanka and you're married into a Jewish family. I saw a little bit about that because my oldest daughter was married to a Jewish fellow for about 20 years, that he was from a New York Jewish family. So I got to see up close and personal. We used to laugh about Thanksgiving every year because we redubbed the name. We redubbed that holiday Feed a Jew a Ham Day because her Jewish in-laws would come over and would just inhale every kind of pork product on the sun, knowing they were eating pork products, but also knowing my daughter doesn't keep kosher like they did, so they could get away with it there. I'm sure he would be willing to convert. So yeah, conversion. I don't know how that would work out for him, and whether Israel would recognize that. Maybe they would, because he did relocate the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. So maybe he is beloved there. I don't know. I haven't really kept up with Trump. I haven't really watched what he's doing, except when they start talking about charging him with stuff. That I've looked at, and it's kind of for me, it's been kind of a careful dance because I have relatives. All of my relatives except one voted for Trump. So like when I've talked to my mother, I have to keep my mouth shut because she will promote him and say stuff about him. And I'm just like thinking, She's 80 some odd years old. She's not well. I'm not going to fight with her over this. Israel tries hard not to recognize any conversion except Orthodox conversions. Yeah, I just did not know. You studied for 2 years, a really tough religion. Yeah, I know it is. I've heard it is. So where does that all leave us? I don't know, but one thing about religion is if you don't get with all their 10,000 rules of Melmac, as I used to call it, and I'm not just talking about Judaism, I'm talking about many religions, many types of Christianity, types of Buddhism, even peaceful religions. If you don't toe the line with every single rule, you're going to have a hard time. That was one of the things that I struggled with because there were things that my old church said were a sin that I never viewed as sinful, and I still don't view them as sinful. Example, I was with a girlfriend of mine from the church who I talk about in my book, is one of my closer friends there. When we were down in Louisiana, one of the things we did was go off to the casino for the night. I thought it was okay because I don't have a problem with gambling. I have my $2 worth of nickels. I play the nickel slots. When the $2 are gone, that's it. I don't play games where I know that I could lose a serious amount of money. They all have their own rules. They most certainly do. So we snuck off that day and did that. And that was a big old no-no. And we knew it was a no-no, but we still did it because it was fun. We used to also smoke cigars and shoot guns and do things the church frowned upon, even though later they really embraced the whole gun culture thing. And we're talking about air rifles. We're not talking about we had AK-47s or anything. We'd go shoot a bunch of cans. That was just some of the things we did. We would also go ride go-karts. She wanted to do the polar bear thing. I was not real super thrilled with chopping a hole in the ice of the river and swimming naked. That was just something I knew was going to be a no for me that she wanted to do. Yeah, you have to have some fun, and you have to have fun in a safe way. And all of those things that I'm talking about are relatively safe things. One time we were going to go get tattoos, and we chickened out of that. Another time she got her belly button pierced. I did not, because I could just hear my doctor giving me crap about it. And my eye doctor was the worst about piercings and tattoos. He would scare you pretty much and show you pictures of ones gone horribly, horribly wrong he'd seen at conferences. So he spoiled my fun like that. But yes, we would go have fun, and we would have to sneak off to go have fun because these were things that were frowned upon. Maybe about once every 6 or 8 weeks, we'd go bowl in the middle of the night, midnight to 4 a.m. bowling, super cheap. We would do stuff like that. Just harmless fun. But it sure felt like we were flipping the bird. That is what KJ needs. I don't know. I saw the pictures of her from her latest, was it a live stream last night she was doing where everybody was saying she seemed kind of chemically altered. I didn't see the live stream. I saw the pictures from it. Looked like this had been done, looked like a monkey's butthole. And somebody used to get her lessons on how to blend her makeup too, because that was all I noticed. And the eyelid that keeps closing when the other one doesn't close. Doesn't he already have a few? Or maybe I'm just making assumptions based upon his shirtless rebel guitarist look that he has. Him and Uni share that at least. So back to this thought crimes, and that's what you're basically talking about here. If you cannot be rebellious in your own little ways, it's going to come out somewhere. The more that you try to clamp down on this kind of crap and control your very thoughts, control your feelings, tell yourself you're wrong, you're just going to set yourself up for more and more problems in the long run. For all the money KJ has spent on makeup, she looks horrible. Can't cover some things, and KJ shouldn't bother trying. I'm still astounded by the eyelids that do not work in concert together, because that there's something seriously wrong there. She needs to be looked at. And I'm not saying that to be a bitch. I'm saying that because it is concerning, like neurologically concerning, or maybe she's had so much Botox that it has disturbed the nerves. But something is not right there, and it needs to be looked at and dealt with. Yeah, I really shouldn't talk. I'm such a hypocrite, considering I'm doing these things right now, and for months I've been ignoring what is likely to be an ulcer, because I had a complete abdominal scan and chest scan back in March and nothing glowed. So I know I'm not harboring something like cancer or anything in there. So I know that this is just something stupid and minor. It's the kind of stupid minor that's no fun. It prevents me from eating, and I'm not losing weight from it. Yeah. So Java man, the thing with ulcers is they're actually bacterial infections mostly. So if I have an ulcer, I need to be on antibiotics. So I need to just bite the bullet and do this damn thing and go to the doctor. I just don't like doing it because a couple of reasons why I don't like going to the doctor. I'm going to show you the most likely reason why I don't like going to the doctor. I'll show you. Okay, and what did I knock over? This is why I don't like going to the doctor. I have white coat syndrome blood pressure. I will go in there and pop a high blood pressure every single time, and they will act like that's a thing, even though I'm carrying this guy that I have calibrated to their blood pressure machine that shows that I take my blood pressure every single day, and it's low usually. So I always have to deal with them trying to put me on increasingly stronger blood pressure meds, and I'm not down with that. Okay. I am not down with that. So because of that, and if I can get the right doctor, that's the other thing. Most of the doctors there are decent. There's one that's not. If I get the not decent doctor, he has told me a couple of times that several of my problems are in my head. I had to educate him. He's no longer there, but I don't look forward to another doctor having to do that. So if Dr. Andrea, Dr. Viviana, and Dr. Javier are there, I don't really want to see anybody. So I got to call and find out. So I'm not going to let KJ give me an ulcer, but Miss Petty Crane and Erica Genevieve were upsetting my stomach last night. So I think it is an ulcer, because I could feel myself getting agitated talking to Steve, because it was such an incredibly convoluted story that it was messing with me. My stomach is not right as a result this morning. I was so controlled as a child and young adult. When I finally broke away at 21, my poor husband, now ex, had to put up with a lot as I started to begin to live. Aussie, and that is a problem. Once you leave these things, if you manage to get out together in one piece, which is pretty amazing if you're married. I know very few married couples have been managed to keep it together afterwards. My husband and I were one of the few that I know of. And we still knock heads about religion. He still wants me to go to his church with him. I can't go because every time I go, it's like Dog City and I'm reacting all over the place. Hey, Jeanette, what are we talking about? We're talking about ignoring your inner voice and how badly that can screw us all up, because it does when you do. You've got to really listen to what your gut is telling you. Even when your gut is wrong, it's better to go ahead and move with an abundance of caution. I was talking about my cat. He hides now. And I've learned that when he hides, there's usually something wrong with the person he's hiding from. You married him to get away? And did that work for you? Or was he part of the whole religion there? Because I've seen so many times in my old church where people got married who were not meant to be together because of courtship, because of their parents, whatever. And one of the partners grew and developed and started to live, and the other partner was stuck in the CULT church, and there was an explosive end to the marriage more than once. My family always says go by first. Was right, wrong is wrong. Yeah, you got to go with what you feel. You really do, and what you're thinking, what your gut is telling you about situations. Like I said, I've screwed up majorly with that in my old church. I've since gotten to where, nope, I have no problem saying no to people trying to put something else on me. So that's really as much as I can really say about this situation, except that when you get out, it's challenging because you have to figure out not just whether to listen to your gut, you got to figure out where your boundaries are, all of that. And it takes a lot of thought and intentionality. There's still times when my brain tries to default to CULT 101, and I have to stop and say no to my brain, like, no, do not do that. And it's just really difficult. Well, I never went back, but it began a journey of pain similar to what happened with the Duggar girls. I am so sorry. That has been, for me, one of the most awful parts is sitting on the sidelines. You can shout, run, 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 all you want, the Duggar girls. But when they actually do start to run, especially Jill, they face almost insurmountable odds. And I know Jill has really suffered from her family turning against her because she looked at what's going on and said, hey, no. And Derek, I'm sure, was a large part of her deconversion. You have to go quickly. 2 boxes of 26 baby Einstein DVDs. Oh my goodness. Always wants them for Christmas and her birthday. Make sure get them early so we don't have issues. Good. Go, go, go. I can't stand to go to church because we won't. It's a Baptist church, but my in-laws were, so it was their church if they were at church. And it's awful. They were goody in church and devils. Devils elsewhere. It is a long and lonely road. Yeah, unfortunately, it is a long and lonely road. And that's what we have going on here. And that's why I'm going to keep talking about this long and lonely road, even when I don't have a whole lot of wisdom about it, because I think that this is important. Being able to tell people, yes, your feelings are valid. Your feelings are your feelings are your feelings. It goes a long way. I didn't have this when I left. It was an extremely long road for me. One of the most useful things I did was I went into therapy, which I recommend to everyone, but I say be very careful about your therapist. I've talked about this before. My husband had a therapist for a while who was a part of a church that was recommended to him by our church. And this guy was awful. He was the guy was. I think the Quakers don't even have services. They have informal meetings. No, they don't. They don't have the kind of services the way we consider service. I'm now 60 and being one of 7. Only one brother speaks to me. All I ever wanted was a big family. I'm so sorry. I always wanted a big family too, because I was an only and it didn't quite work out for me. I have 3 kids and that's all it's going to be. And I don't think any of them show any kind of signs of reproducing anytime soon. It took me years to figure out boundaries. Grace, the boundaries to me are the hardest part. And that did take therapy. And I didn't go to my husband's awful therapist that he went to for a while, a guy named Dwight. How bad was Dwight? Well, when Jim started having major depression problems that were actually the parathyroid gland, that were not anything else, and he was told they were demonic and stuff, Dwight told him it was selfish. Then Dwight started demanding to see me, and he brought me in, and he told me that I was the problem, that if I was properly submissive, that this would all resolve. He could tell I was just way controlling. I was always put off that I was the evil ones because I wasn't as godly as they are. But I'm the only one that tells the truth. I don't steal from the ladies. I didn't trust Erica. I also didn't trust the report she made. It just looked fake to me. Same. And she has a history of faking reports, is my understanding. I had bad vibes and net vibes from her. Exactly. Exactly. Autistic chill. And that's why I was like, from the beginning, not having anything to do with her, because I was getting vibes. That was before I knew she had that everybody on Facebook is saying she has a history of faking reports, legal reports. Yes, but I don't talk to the computer and it gives me what I say. Well, that could be a problem. Quite happy Chalice. That seems to be my kids. Yes, I was in a situation like the Duggar girls. My parents protected the Josh. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Did he try to do an exorcism? I don't know, but maybe Steve needs to do an exorcism on her. She told me he was still speaking to Erica, and I was like, please don't do that. There's a lot of problematic there. Just step away, put down the computer keyboard and step away. For me, it was the therapy. The therapy was the most helpful. I would say things to Elise, my therapist, and she would say, honey, why are you beating yourself up? This is normal, blah, blah, blah. Anybody would have those kinds of feelings. She really helped me reframe everything, including where my boundaries were, including realizing that my emotions are my emotions. I shouldn't look down upon them. I shouldn't put them down as some kind of evil messages from Satan. Oh my goodness. Big hugs to all of y'all for going through that. And being raised I was raised in a lapsed Catholic family. They went for Marians and Barians, Christmas and Easter, and that was about it. I had some very devout Catholics in my family who would drag me to church with them. But for the most part, it was lapsed Catholics. And I was no better protected than you guys, even though I have a brother. It was the dentist that was doing it to me. And my mother could see how agitated I got every time I had to go to the dentist. So she started drugging me. She started giving me a half of a Valium before I had to go. So she zonked me out so the dentist could molest me even more. So there's no guarantee of any of this, unfortunately. The best you could do is try to be vigilant. They used to ask me why I was insisting on being there when my kids went to the dentist. Well, finally, I just would boldly state it, because I was molested by a dentist from 7 to 9. And I am not leaving you alone with my child as a result. I am on chemo and my brain don't work quite right. I spell with the computer. Sorry for the confusion. Jeanette, I kind of figured something like that was going on. I'm sorry that you're on chemo. Please make it through to the end. I've been there myself a few times. It's not a good place to be. I find it helpful to remember that some of the things that we experience are part of the human condition. Very true, Java Man. Very true. And the boundaries thing, I think, is one of them. And not ignoring the inner voice. And we all try to ignore the inner voice to be part of the group. Various things, like I remember as a teenager trying to do it a number of times so that I could be thought of as cool, which is pretty uncool. So you're all caught up. And I don't really have anything more to say except read Gavin de Becker's A Gift of Fear. Get therapy. Find the right therapist and start to get therapy if you're recovering from this stuff, because it can be deadly if you don't. And there's some high demand religious organizations. Java Man, does she have one? I'm not sure she does. I am not sure she has an inner voice. And that's sad for her, because that's the thing that keeps us out of trouble, at least for me. Even when I fuss and cry about something that I know is not going to do the right thing, and I know what the right thing is. Hey, Porky. When I ignore it, is where I get into trouble. And I don't want all you guys getting in trouble like me. Love you. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you later.